Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place that takes a whole stack of sources, digs through them, and gives you what you really need to know. Today, we're diving into someone truly fascinating, maybe one of the most defining artists, certainly of the 20th century, Andy Warhol.
Yeah, and calling him just an artist almost feels insufficient, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He was more like a cultural force, the guy who basically reshaped the American landscape in the latter half of the century. He didn't just blur lines between art, fame, mass production, commerce.
We smashed them.
Exactly, smashed them and then built this whole empire on the pieces.
Right. So our mission today is to take this huge pile of information we've gathered on Andrew Warhol Jr. and really synthesize his journey. We want to follow him from, being a commercial illustrator in Pittsburgh, working class background, all the way to becoming the Pope of Pop.
And beyond, really, into the business artist phase.
Yeah.
We're looking for those moments of genius, but also the controversy, the mechanics behind it all.
Absolutely. And the big question weaving through this, the one we really want you, the listener, to keep in mind is this. How did Warhol's, relentless drive for commercial success, his almost unique willingness to embrace surface, repetition, how did that completely redefine art? And maybe even more pressingly, why does his work still command these astronomical prices today? Why is he still such a dominant force in the market?
It's a great question, because it seems almost contradictory to some of his own ideas.
Okay, so to get Warhol the icon, you have to start with Andrew Warhol Jr., born 1928, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And the contrast between where he started and where he ended up, it's just immense.
Oh, absolutely. Classic American story of transformation, right? His parents, Andrej and Julia, were immigrants, working-class Rusin immigrants, actually, from a village called Mikova in what was then Austria-Hungary.
Right, now Slovakia. And they brought their faith with them.
Very much so. They were devout Ruthenian Catholics, attended St. John Chrysostom Byzantine Catholic Church. And, that deep, sort of icon-focused, ritualistic faith, it seems like it stayed with him privately his whole life. It's an interesting undercurrent.
And his entry into art wasn't through some grand inspiration, but through illness, confinement.
Yeah, that's really telling. At 8 years old, he gets a streptococcal infection.
Right.
And it wasn't just one thing. It was this cascade scarlet fever, rheumatic fever, and then Sydenham's chorea, St. Vitus dance, they called it. Basically, neurological issues, uncontrollable movements. He was bedridden for months.
Stuck inside. And what did he do?
He drew. Constantly.
Yeah.
But crucially, he wasn't sketching bowls of fruit. He was cutting pictures out of movie magazines, Hollywood fan mags, comic books, and pasting them into scrapbooks. He was already compiling the surfaces of popular culture, observing, collecting images.
And his family supported this interest, didn't they, even technically?
Yeah, his father and brothers actually built him a darkroom in the basement. So he gets into photography early on, too.
Yeah.
Think about that combination. Celebrity images, repetition through scrapbooking, and the technical process of photography. It's all there, in seed form.
He was basically learning the language of pop art decades before anyone called it that. He did well in school, art-wise.
He did. Won a Scholastic Art and Writing Award, graduated high school in '45, then went to Carnegie Tech, now Carnegie Mellon, and got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Pictorial Design in 1949. And notice, it's pictorial design, commercial art, practical application.
Not fine art painting, necessarily.
Exactly. Though he was involved in the art scene there, joined the modern dance club, the Beaux-Arts Society, he had that performative, slightly bohemian streak early on, too.
So, degree in hand, he heads straight for the big time, New York City, 1949.
And hits the ground running. It's remarkable how fast he established himself. Got a commission almost right away from Glamour magazine. The assignment, draw shoes.
It's shoes.
Just shoes. But he was good at it. That led to a really successful decade as a commercial illustrator. Big clients like the shoe company Israel Miller, Tiffany & Co. He was making a name for himself in that world.
And developing his own techniques, even then. That blotted line technique is key, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely crucial. It's the direct precursor to the silkscreens. Let's break that down a bit.
Yeah, how did it actually work? It sounds sort of manual, but repetitive.
It was. Totally self-developed. He'd do a simple line drawing on one piece of paper, then he'd ink those lines. Then, while the ink was still wet, he'd press another sheet of paper, often something absorbent, like tracing paper onto it.
And it would transfer, like a stamp.
Sort of, yeah. It would blot the ink, transferring the image.
Yeah.
But the result wasn't perfect, right? It was a bit fuzzy, smudged, unique each time, but clearly from the same source drawing.
Ah, so he could repeat the process, not the exact image.
Exactly. He could re-ink the original drawing and blot it again and again, creating a series of variations on one theme, a shoe, whatever. He got the repetition, the seriality, but with these slight, almost accidental flaws that gave it a kind of handmade quality within the mechanical process.
That's fascinating. He's already thinking about multiples, about imperfection within repetition.
Totally. It trained his eye and his thinking. When he moved to silk screening later, it was like upgrading the machinery, but the core idea was already there, thanks to the blotted line.
People noticed his style even then, right? Someone said he drew shoes like Toulouse-Lautrec.
Yeah, John Cuplands, a photographer, said Warhol gave each shoe a sly Toulouse-Lautrec kind of sophistication. High praise for shoe ads. But it was still ads, commercial work. He started dipping his toes into the fine art world, though.
With mixed results initially.
Well, he had his first solo show in '52 at the Hugo Gallery. 15 drawings based on the writings of Truman Capote. And then, maybe more tellingly, in 1957 he showed these whimsical shoes he'd decorated himself, covered in gold leaf representing celebrities like James Dean, Elvis.
So art objects, but still shoes, still celebrity focus.
Right. Sold them at the Bodley Gallery for decent money, too, like at the $225. You see that mix already. Craftsmanship, celebrity, commerce, it's all bubbling up.
But before pop really hit, there was this other barrier he had to deal with, his identity in the art world of the 50s.
A huge barrier. We have to remember what dominated the New York scene then. Abstract expressionism. Ebex, Pollock de Kooning.
Very macho. Very serious about deep inner feelings, the big gesture.
Exactly. It valued this idea of rugged, masculine American authenticity. And Warhol, oh, he wasn't that. His early drawings, some homoerotic pieces, male nudes galleries, rejected them flat out in the 50s. They said they were too openly gay, too decorative too. Swish.
That must have stung.
Probably. But, yeah, Warhol being Warhol, he didn't necessarily hide it or change.
Bro.
There's that story about the filmmaker Emile D'Antonio criticizing his mannerisms.
And Warhol just leaned into it more.
Yeah, apparently he found people's discomfort kind of amusing. He turned that perceived vulnerability, that swish identity, into a kind of armor, a persona.
How so?
By playing up the quiet, the surface level, the refusal to explain, he became this monosyllabic oddity. It was the perfect counterpoint to the Abex guys demanding deep, soul-bearing authenticity. He was basically saying, nope, I'm surface. My art is surface. Deal with it. That calculated persona was absolutely essential for what came next.
Okay, so the early 60s, this is the pivot. He's already known, but as an illustrator, a window dresser.
A very stylish one. And he used that connection. In April '61, his first real pup paintings, based on comics, ads, like Superman, Saturday's Popeye were their debut, not a gallery.
Bonnet teller, right, as backdrops for mannequins in the window.
Exactly. The line between the store window and the gallery wall is just dissolving right there.
And then comes the technical and conceptual leap in '62, inspired apparently by drawing money, which feels very Warhol.
Doesn't it? Perfect.
Yeah.
He starts seriously using silk screening, learns the technique from Max Arthur Cohn, and this changes everything.
How so? More than just a faster technique.
Oh, much more. It's moving from that manual, if repetitive, blotted line to a truly mechanical photographic process. He could take existing images, photos, and transfer them directly onto canvas, quickly, repeatedly, and crucially.
You could get other people to do it.
Bingo.
Yeah.
He could have assistants pull the squeegee. Mass production becomes possible. He becomes a pioneer of silkscreen as a fine art medium, not just commercial printing.
And did he strive for perfection in the prints?
That's the brilliant part. No, he embraced the glitches, the off-registration, the ink bleeding a bit, the slight variations that happened in mechanical reproduction. Those weren't errors to be fixed. They were part of the aesthetic, the signature of the machine.
So the process itself becomes part of the art.
Absolutely. And the public catches on fast. May '62. Time magazine runs a picture of Big Campbell's soup can with can opener, vegetable. By July, that soup can painting is in a museum, the Wadsworth Atheneum, first museum acquisition. And then the big West Coast debut at the Ferris Gallery in L.A. Pop art had arrived.
And immediately caused a stir. People weren't happy.
Oh, the art establishment was horrified. December '62, MoMA holds this symposium on pop art. The critics are basically accusing Warhol and others of selling out, of capitulating to consumer culture, dragging art down into vulgar commerce.
Which ironically gave Warhol the perfect platform for one of his most famous ideas.
Right. He flips the script. He doesn't defend against consumerism. He sort of celebrates the democracy of it. Not the product itself, maybe, but the shared experience.
The Coca-Cola quote.
The Coca-Cola quote is brilliant. What's great about this country is that America started the tradition where the richest consumers buy essentially the same things as the poorest.
Yeah, he says, the president drinks Coke, Liz Taylor drinks Coke, and you can drink Coke too.
A Coke is a Coke. And no amount of money can get you a better Coke than the one the bum on the corner is drinking. All the Cokes are the same, and all the Cokes are good. Think about how radical that is in an art world, obsessed with uniqueness, with the precious singular object.
He's saying the shared, common, mass-produced thing is the real American truth.
Exactly. And he didn't just say it, he built a world around it. 1963, he moves his studio to East 47th Street. And it's not just a studio.
It's the factory.
The factory, capital T, capital F. It becomes this legendary gathering place. You've got intellectuals, drag queens, playwrights, street kids, movie stars, rich patrons, everyone mixing together. It's a social experiment as much as an art studio. Pure Warhol.
And the look of the place itself became famous. All silver.
Yeah, Billy Name, one of the factory regulars, covered the whole place. Walls, pipes, everything in aluminum foil and silver paint. It gave it this weird, glamorous, industrial, slightly sci-fi, slightly decaying vibe. Utterly unique.
And this is where the Warhol superstars emerge.
Right. This rotating cast of characters, Edie Sedgwick is probably the most famous early one, but also Candy Darling, Joe D'Alessandro, Ultraviolet, Viva. He just bestowed this title on them. They were his muses, his collaborators, stars in his films, but also, in a way, living art installations themselves, extensions of the Warhol brand. He was using fame to create fame.
And the art pouring out of there in the mid-60s. It's the stuff everyone knows, the Marilyn series.
Started right after her death in '62, using that publicity still, repeating it, coloring it. Those flavor Marilyns, cherry, lemon, licorice, based on 14 different canvases. It's about her as a product, a consumable image available in different varieties.
But then he uses the exact same method for something completely different, the Death and Disaster series.
Yeah, this is where you see the real conceptual weight, I think. Same silkscreen process, same bright poppy colors sometimes, same repetition. But the subjects, car crashes, suicides, electric chairs, race riots, images taken straight from newspapers.
It's jarring. Treating tragedy like a soup can or a movie star.
That's the point. He's showing how mass media flattens everything. Whether it's Marilyn's face or a horrific accident, it becomes just another image, repeated until it loses its impact. The medium neutralizes the message, maybe, or highlights our numbness.
And then maybe the ultimate provocation. The Brillo box sculptures in '64.
Oh, definitely. He gets these wooden boxes made to the exact dimensions of supermarket cartons, Brillo pads, Heinz ketchup, Mott's apple juice. Then he has the logos and designs perfectly silk screened onto them.
So they look identical to the real thing.
Indistinguishable, basically. And he stacks them up in the gallery like they're in a warehouse stockroom and sells them for, what, a few $100 each?
Which just blew people's minds. How is this art? It looks exactly like a Brillo box.
It's Duchamp's ready-made idea pushed into the age of mass production and branding. He's asking, what makes something art? Is it the object itself? Or is it the context, the gallery, the artist's signature, the price tag? If the art object and the commercial object are identical, what are we actually buying?
He doubled down on that with the American Supermarket show later that year.
Yeah, that was wild. An entire gallery set up like a supermarket, but everything in it was pop art. You had Warhol's soup can paintings for $1,500 next to actual cans of Campbell's soup that he'd autographed, selling for $6.50. Other artists made replica produce, signage. It was totally immersive consumerism as art.
He seemed to just love tweaking the art world's expectations, like the cow wallpaper.
Right, 1966. His dealer, Ivan Karp, apparently told him, why don't you paint some cows? They're so pastoral.
Yeah.
So Warhol's response, he makes this bright pink and yellow wallpaper pattern of a cow's head and just covers the entire walls of the prestigious Leo Castelli gallery with it.
Art as disposable decoration.
Exactly. Completely undermining the idea of the precious, unique masterpiece. It's repeatable, it's decor, it's almost silly. But it makes a serious point about context and value.
And this wasn't just painting. 1965, he famously declares he's retiring from painting to make movies.
Yeah, and his early films were challenging. Very experimental, often silent, extremely long, focused on mundane actions.
Like sleep. 6 hours of watching a guy sleep.
Poet John Giorno, yeah. Or Empire, which is just an 8-hour static shot of the Empire State Building. He was playing with duration, boredom, minimal action, forcing you to just look.
He courted controversy, too. Blowjob.
Yeah. 1964.
Yeah.
So the 35-minute continuous close-up of just a man's face, supposedly receiving oral sex, but you never see it. It's all about the implication, the viewer's projection, voyeurism. It actually won him an Independent Film Award.
And then he branches out even further into music and performance, the Velvet Underground connection.
Right, late 65, he basically adopts this unknown experimental rock band, becomes their manager, pairs them with the German singer Nico, incorporates them into these wild multimedia happenings he called the exploding plastic inevitable.
What were those like?
Sensory overload. The band would be playing their really loud avant-garde music while Warhol's films were projected onto them and around the room, dancers moving through strobe lights. It was immersive, chaotic, influential.
And he produced their first album, The Velvet Underground and Nico, the one with the banana on the cover.
Famously produced, meaning he paid for the studio time and lent his name and visual identity. That peelable banana sticker was his design. He provided the platform, the cool factor, the connection to the art world. It proves his influence could stretch across painting, film, music, performance.
Yeah.
He was becoming a multimedia brand.
But that whole wild, experimental, anything-goes factory scene, it came to a terrifying end on June 3rd, 1968.
Yeah, this is the watershed moment.
Yeah.
Valerie Solanas, a radical feminist writer, she wrote the STO Manifesto, had a tiny part in one of his films. A man she came into the factory, pulled out a gun, and shot Warhol, and also hit Mario Maya, an art critic who was there.
The attack was brutal. Warhol nearly died.
He really did. He's critically wounded, underwent extensive surgery, was in the hospital for almost 2 months. Solanas later said he had too much control over my life. She was eventually diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Amaya's injuries were less severe, thankfully.
And the physical scars stayed with him forever, right? The corset.
For the rest of his life, yeah. He had to wear a surgical corset to hold his organs in place. But the psychological impact, the impact on his art and his whole approach to life, that was arguably even bigger.
How did things change after the shooting?
Dramatically. The open-door, chaotic policy of the old factory, gone. Security tightened up. The whole atmosphere shifted. It became much more controlled, maybe more fearful. He wasn't taking those kinds of risks anymore.
And he explicitly started talking about art differently.
He did. He moved the factory eventually to Union Square, and it became less of a happening place and more of, well, an office. He started calling it a business enterprise. Paul Morrissey, his collaborator, helped streamline things.
And this is when he says that famous line about business.
Being good in business is the most fascinating kind of art. That really becomes the mantra for the next phase of his career. He pivots fully from being the observer of commerce to being the master practitioner of art as commerce.
So new ventures were needed to support this business model, like Interview magazine.
Right. Co-founded it in late '69, started as Interview W, a monthly film journal, but quickly morphed into this big glossy magazine all about celebrity, gossipy interviews, often done by Warhol or his circle, lots of photos.
It became a kind of Warholian stage for fame itself.
Totally. It generated celebrity buzz. It chronicled it. It was part of the celebrity machine. His film work also shifted. Blue Movie in '69 was his last directorial effort, an erotic film that actually got mainstream attention, kind of kicking off that golden age of porn era in New York. After that,
He handed the reins over.
pretty much, Paul Morrissey took over directing the factory films. They became more like narrative B-movies, flesh, trash, heat, often gritty, featuring Joe D'Alessandro, exploring street life, drugs, sexuality. Still edgy, but more conventionally structured than Warhol's early films.
Warhol himself didn't disappear from the screen, though. He moved to TV later.
Yeah, he embraced television. Hosted shows like Fashion, Andy Warhol's TV, and Andy Warhol's 15 Minutes on MTV in the 80s. He understood the power of the broadcast image, the interview format. The medium was the message, and he was the medium.
And this business focus led directly to the main artistic output of the 70s, the portraits.
The portrait commission era, definitely. He really systematized it. Wealthy patrons, socialites, celebrities, Mick Jagger, Liza Minnelli, John Lennon, Diane von Furstenberg, countless others would commission portraits.
What was the process like? Still silkscreen.
Yep. He'd take a bunch of Polaroid photos of the sitter, choose one he liked. Then assistants would blow it up, create silk screens, and produce the final painting, usually with those signature blocks of bright, often non-naturalistic color.
And the price was set.
Oh yeah, standard fee. The sources say $25,000 for one canvas. Or a package deal, 2 for $40,000. It was high-end, bespoke mass production.
The ultimate status symbol for the 70s elite.
Exactly, capturing that era's obsession with fame and money. And he wasn't afraid of politically charged figures either, the Mao series from '72-'73.
Huge canvases, endlessly repeated image of Chairman Mao. What was the thinking there? political statement.
It's classic Warhol ambiguity. Was it a commentary on communism? Or was he just taking arguably the most famous, most reproduced face on the planet at that moment and treating it exactly like Marilyn or Elvis as just another global superstar image?
Probably the latter.
The sources lean that way. He was fascinated by Mao's universal recognizability. When the Whitney Museum did that show, Portraits of the 70s in 1979, critics were divided. Some praised it for capturing the decade's superficiality, the rise of People magazine culture. Others slammed the works as facile, shallow, just commercial transactions.
But maybe capturing the superficiality was the point.
That's the Warhol defense, right? He's holding up a mirror. If the culture is superficial, the art reflecting it will be too. That's its honesty.
Away from the business side, his personal life seemed to stabilize a bit after the shooting, too.
It did. He began his longest romantic relationship around that time with Jed Johnson. Johnson started as an assistant, helped nurse Warhol back to health after the shooting. They were together for about 12 years, lived together. The sources describe them as basically functioning like a married couple.
A bit of domesticity amidst the factory chaos. And he had his dogs.
Archie. And later Amos, his dachshunds. He adored them, took Archie everywhere. The studio, restaurants, parties, even on Concord to Europe, they were constant companions. A source of uncomplicated affection, perhaps.
Which stands in contrast to some of the work he was doing later in the 70s, like the oxidations, the piss painting.
Ah, yes. Definitely controversial. Started around 77. The technique was unique. Canvases were primed with copper-based paint. Then Warhol, his assistants, friends apparently, including Victor Hugo, Ronnie Catrone, various factory visitors would urinate on them.
And the urine reacted with the copper.
Exactly. The acid in the urine oxidized the copper paint, creating these abstract, unpredictable patterns, mostly in shades of green and blue.
Wow. What was the idea behind that? Just shock value?
Partly, maybe. But it's also seen as this direct, almost contemptuous response to abstract expressionism. Now, Abeck's reverence for the artist's heroic, authentic gesture, Warhol replaces it with, well, peeing. Bodily function, anonymous, chemical, stripping away all that pretension of deep feeling. He even apparently commented on how different people's diets, like vitamin B supplements, made prettier colors.
That is something else. Conceptual and crude all at once.
Classic Warhol. And around the same time, he was doing these very explicit nude photo series, torsos and sex parts. Often male subjects, sometimes hustlers, brought in by Victor Hugo, lover of the fashion designer Halston. This apparently caused real friction with Jed Johnson, who wasn't comfortable with that whole decadent Studio 54 scene Warhol was still very much a part of.
So even with the shift to business, the desire to provoke, to explore those darker, more explicit edges, it never really went away.
No, he just managed it differently. The chaos was maybe more compartmentalized after '68, but the core interest remained.
So moving into the 1980s, Warhol is globally famous, a brand name, but maybe the art world buzz had faded a little. Critics weren't always kind in the 70s.
Right. Some saw him as coasting, repeating himself with the portraits. But he found this new energy, a critical and financial resurgence, by connecting with the next generation, the neo-expressionists who were suddenly art market darlings.
Especially Jean-Michel Basquiat.
That was the key relationship, and Francesco Clemente, too, to some extent. Around '83, Warhol becomes fascinated by Basquiat, this young, charismatic Haitian Puerto Rican artist from the street art scene, full of raw energy. There seemed to be a real, almost father-son dynamic, though complex.
And they collaborated. A lot.
Extensively. The sources say over 50 large paintings together between '84 and '85. It was a strange pairing, the cool, detached machine of Warhol working alongside the hot, expressive, spontaneous Basquiat.
How did that work? Did they paint on the same canvas?
Yeah, often Warhol would start, maybe screen an image or a logo, and then Basquiat would paint over it, around it, responding to it with his own figures, text, gestures. Then maybe Warhol would add another layer.
What was the reaction?
Critically. Mostly negative, actually. A lot of critics dismissed it as a cynical ploy by Warhol to latch onto Basquiat's rising star, to make himself seem relevant again, like Warhol was exploiting him.
But Warhol seemed genuinely invested.
He did. He called some of the collaborations masterpieces. He seemed energized by it. Said Basquiat pushed him to paint differently, to loosen up. It was clearly an important, if fraught, relationship for both of them.
But even while doing this seemingly more artistic collaboration, the business mind was always working. That 1980 series, 10 Portraits of Jews of the 20th Century.
Right. Shown in the Jewish Museum, figures like Freud, Einstein, Golda. Critically, it was noted he didn't seem particularly engaged with the subject matter itself. And his own diary entry about it was brutally honest.
What did he write?
Just, they're going to sell.
Wow. Pure commerce.
That duality never went away. He even planned to create a robot version of himself in 1981, an animatronic Warhol that would travel around doing a stage show, reading from his diaries.
Seriously, a robot, Andy.
Yep, a no-man's show. It perfectly fits that, quote, "I'd like to be a machine, wouldn't you?" He wanted to automate his own presence.
He kept taking big commissions, too, right? Very public stuff.
Oh, yeah. Designed the poster for the Brooklyn Bridge's 100th anniversary in '83, did the official poster for the '84 Winter Olympics in Sarajevo, the speed skater image. He was the go-to artist for high-profile mainstream branding.
And then his last major body of work circles back in a really unexpected way, the Last Supper series.
It's fascinating. Commissioned in 1984 by a Milanese art dealer, he ended up producing almost 100 variations on Leonardo da Vinci's famous mural.
Given his public image, his focus on secular pop culture, doing a massive religious series seems surprising.
It does. But it connects back to that private, lifelong Ruthenian Catholic faith we talked about earlier. This is the largest series of religious-themed works by any American artist. He took one of the most iconic, most reproduced images in Western history and subjected it to his pop treatment repetition. Bright colors, commercial logos, sometimes overlaid, fragmentation.
So it's reverence and commodification at the same time.
Seems like it. Exploring faith through the lens of mass media and reproduction. The final show of this work opened in Milan in January 1987.
And then just a month later, he was gone. February 22nd, 1987. He was only 58.
Yeah, died quite suddenly from a cardiac arrhythmia after what was supposed to be routine gallbladder surgery.
The irony is just brutal. He'd put off that surgery for years, apparently terrified of hospitals.
Since 1973, yeah.
Yeah.
By the time he finally had it, his gallbladder was apparently in very bad shape, near rupturing. But the surgery itself reportedly went okay. It was the post-op care that became the issue.
What went wrong?
There was an investigation, a state health department report. It found problems with his care, maybe the wrong monitoring, definitely being given way too much fluid intravenously, which can strain the heart. He essentially drowned internally, went into fluid overload. He was found unresponsive before they called a code.
So, preventable.
That was the allegation. His family sued the hospital for wrongful death, claiming improper care led to the arrhythmia. The hospital settled out of court fairly quickly for an undisclosed amount. And later analysis suggested maybe the surgery itself was riskier than initially thought because of his age, family history, and all the internal damage from the '68 shooting. A tragic end.
But his death, far from ending his story, just seemed to ignite his market value even further.
Oh, unbelievably so. He became the absolute benchmark for the contemporary art market. The bellwether, the one-man Dow Jones, as people called him.
The prices are just mind-boggling now.
Completely. Records kept getting broken. Silver car crash, double disaster. One of those bleak 60s pieces sold for over $105 million in 2013.
Yeah.
And then the big one, shot Sage Blue, Maryland, fetching $195 million in 2022.
The most expensive work by an American artist ever sold at auction.
By far, which creates that fascinating tension we talked about at the start. The guy who celebrated the cheap democratic Coke, his own unique works, become these ultimate symbols of elite wealth.
And his brand is so strong it even survives unauthorized copies, the Sunday Bee morning prints.
Right. That's a great story. After Warhol had a falling out with some early factory associates in Europe, they apparently kept the original photo negatives and color codes for some prints. And they just started printing their own editions, stamping them, published by Sunday Bee Morning, and fill in your own signature. Totally. And later, some even got stamped apparently by Warhol or his circle. This is not by me, Andy Warhol. But the thing is, even these unauthorized prints have a market. People collect them. It speaks volumes about how the idea of Warhol, the brand itself, carries value, almost independent of his direct hand. He made authorship fuzzy.
Finally, we have to touch on his collecting. Not just art, but everything. The time capsules.
Oh, the time capsules are incredible. One of his truly unique legacies. Starting around 1973, he became this obsessive archivist of his own daily life. He'd take a standard cardboard box and just dump everything from a certain period into it: mail, newspapers, photos, receipts, junk mail, gifts, notes, plane tickets, souvenirs.
Just everyday stuff.
Everything. Then he'd seal the box, label it with a date range, and put it away. He ended up filling over 600 of these boxes. He called them time capsules. It's like this massive, unfiltered snapshot of American life and his own interactions with it over decades.
It happened to them.
They're now housed at the Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh, his hometown. An incredible resource. And the scale of his other collecting only really became clear when his estate was auctioned off in 1988 after his death.
That auction was huge, right?
10 days. Grossed over $25 million back then.
Well,
And the stuff they found
mm.
was staggering. Thousands of items. High art by Basquiat, Liechtenstein, sure, but also antique furniture, Art Deco pieces, American folk art, carousel horses, hundreds of watches.
And the cookie jars.
The legendary 175 cookie jars, plus
Okay.
tons of jewelry, Navajo blankets. He was just an obsessive accumulator. Jed Johnson even said he kept wads of cash hidden in his mattress and wore expensive jewelry hidden under his clothes. He lives this very private life of accumulation while projecting this cool, detached surface.
The ultimate collector collecting the culture he was simultaneously shaping.
So when you try to wrap your head around Andy Warhol, what do you end up with? I think you see someone who masterfully used the actual tools and language of his time, mass production, advertising, celebrity culture. From the early hand-done blotted line to the factory line silk screens to this celebrity Q&A and interview, he took all that and used it to reflect America back at itself.
Like a mirror, as people say.
Yeah, maybe the most brilliant mirror of our times. He showed us our obsessions, fame, money, products, disasters, but flattened, repeated, maybe forcing us to see them, really see them, in a new way. Without judgment almost, just observation.
And he built institutions to carry that legacy forward. The Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh, it's the biggest museum for a single artist in the U.S., right? And the foundation.
The Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts, yeah. It got the bulk of his estate and continues to give out millions in grants to support contemporary art, especially work that's maybe experimental, challenging, kind of in his spirit. He essentially funded the future of the kind of art he pioneered. The business art machine keeps running.
Which brings us right back to that central paradox, that final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Here's this artist who championed the idea that a Coke is a Coke, that mass production creates a kind of equality. His whole philosophy seemed built on the democratic surface of things. So what does it mean when one single painting of Marilyn Monroe by him sells for nearly $200 million?
Does that astronomical price confirm his view of art as the ultimate commodity? Or does it represent a total betrayal of that original democratic pop ideal? Where does Warhol the machine end and Warhol the market phenomenon begin?
Something to think about. He perfected the machine and the market perfected him, maybe. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.